Okay, so moving on to the toddler. Oops, went too fast. So general characteristics, of course, they're this is between 1 to 3 years of age. They're not completely dependent on others like they were in infancy. Um, Rapid growth and development during infancy, because I talked about how during infancy, that's a rapid growth and development in that 1 year span. It starts to slow down a little bit in this case. And then Erickson's stage of autonomy versus shame and doubt. So this is again why it's important to incorporate these developmental theorists um, into pediatrics when we're talking about growth and development because it helps build a framework for how to understand what's going on during these developmental processes. Um, so yeah, for toddler, it is important in this stage for parents to maintain safety, like childproofing the home, um, keeping an eye on their toddler. Toddlers tend to be everywhere and get into everything, so that's important. But also allowing them to um, have opportunity to be social and independent. Um, it helps them develop socially and maintain a positive self-image. Um, Again, routine and ritualism is important in the toddler stage, just as it was in infancy, because it helps build that sense of security. So, yeah, routines are important. All right, physical development. So their birth weight should have, in general, quadrupled by 2.5 years. The rate of the brain growth does slow, and body proportions change. So the head and trunk grow more slowly. Um, Musculoskeletal system grows and bones begin to ossify. They might have a protuberant abdomen. So you might see that like round belly, and that's very normal. It will flatten when they tighten their muscle. Um, but that's pretty common. Myelination of the spinal cord is nearly complete by 2 years of age, and bowel and bladder control usually complete by 2.5 to 3 years of age. Now, again, that varies widely. Um, every toddler, it's different, and that's okay. That doesn't mean, and you should educate parents on that. Um, that doesn't mean they won't get there. So another thing I wanted to mention was their eruption of more of their deciduous teeth does complete by 2.5 years. They also have a more mature digestion capacity and stomach capacity that allows them to eat a 3 meal a day schedule. But since their deciduous teeth have erupted, it's important to um, remind parents to keep proper oral hygiene for these toddlers. That is important. Keep those teeth um, hygienic in the mouth. Sensory motor and cognitive development. So, um, sensory and motor abilities, they don't function independently. Um, their memory strengthens. They're able to assimilate information through trial, error, and repetition. Um, and they become more aware of cause and effect um, through that trial, error, and repetition. That really helps um, build that awareness. And then sensory motor and preconceptual phase of development emerges rapidly in this age group. So toddlers will copy words and roles from models at home. So whether it's a sibling or a parent or an aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, whatever, whoever is a role model to them at home, they're going to copy that. Um, so that and mimic that. So that's important to remember as well when you're educating parents. Okay, speech development. Um, Speech development in toddlers, it does parallel the cognitive growth, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. Um, Comprehension exceeds verbalization. They might not have the words to verbalize, but they are comprehending what's going on a lot of times. Like I said earlier, um, they're more aware of cause and effect. Expressive and receptive language continue to develop as well. So they become more expressive. Again, their vocabulary increases pretty rapidly. Respond to tone of voice and facial expression of those around them, which kind of is similar to the role modeling those at home. It's that mimic tendency. And then showing empathy toward the toddler who is trying to communicate verbally will help minimize frustrations. Um, because toddlers can become very frustrated when they are trying to get what they're feeling or thinking across, but they just can't, or the adult or person isn't understanding, and it can lead to meltdowns. So just being empathetic towards that toddler can really help um, de-escalate that frustration. At this age, they do start screenings for autism. And I think we've all heard a lot about autism lately. Some of the preliminary symptoms may include all of these down here. So no pointing or gesturing, um, no single words by 16 months of age, no spontaneous two-word phrases by 2 years of age, and loss of achieved language or social skills. There's some other factors that are important to rule out before a diagnosis or suspected diagnosis of autism is made. And this includes any of the conditions below, including neurological and musculoskeletal diseases. Um, so guidance and discipline. So the goal is to teach, not punish. Discipline involves guidance. So a toddler seeks approval, and using a more positive approach increases their self-image and their ability to learn and take in the information. So not punishing, but teaching and guiding is very important. Um, Parent responses to temper tantrums, again, can either reinforce the desirability of or risks involved in such behavior. So the use of fear or physical aggression, it does not foster any self-control. So it's tempting. I know parents of a toddler can get really frustrated and they want to get across that they're serious, they're stern, you're about to get in trouble, but limiting that use of negativity and physical or verbal aggression, it doesn't help anything. Expectations should be in line with the child's physical and cognitive abilities. So we want to set limits. Think of TV or screen time or outdoor play and timeouts if necessary. Daily care. So adults should be at eye level when talking to the toddler because it seems less overwhelming to them. So get on their level. Um, have a flexible schedule organized around needs of the entire household. Clothing should be easy to put on and remove because, toddlers are everywhere. They're playing and stuff. They're getting dirty. And if they have to go to the bathroom, they have to go. So being able to easily remove clothing is important. And of course, sunburn protection in the summer. Toilet dependence. It honestly, a lot of it depends on the temperament of the toddler and the parent or person who's training them. Um, Usually, voluntary control of the anal and urethral sphincters don't begin until around 18 to 24 months of age. But a general rule of thumb, don't leave them on the toilet for more than a few minutes at a time. Any longer than that, it's really, you're not going to get any benefit. It's more about getting them in the habit of this is what you do and getting them to think about that when they have to go to the bathroom. And then bladder training can begin when they stay dry for about 2 hours at a time. So when you're starting to see that their pull up is has been dry for a couple hours consecutively, they're probably ready to start bladder training. So caloric needs for or decline to about 100 calories per kilogram. Limit milk intake to no more than 24 ounces a day. Serving size is 1 tablespoon of solid food for per year of age. So, a 3-year-old can have 3 tablespoons. Food is chopped into fine pieces. So, um, make sure you're educating them on cutting up, the meals or the food that they're giving them so that they can easily pick it up, eat it, digest it. Various foods should be offered. And like I just said, 2 to 3-year-olds like those finger foods. All right, so when we're talking about a picky eater, that is not uncommon in toddlers, but it's important to differentiate a picky eater versus an underlying disorder. So a picky eater is just, they're selective about a particular characteristic of certain foods, like the color, the taste, the texture, the smell, but will eat to maintain growth and development. Whereas a feeding disorder is they refuse to eat at all, and then they fail to grow and thrive. So make sure that they're understanding a difference between the child being picky versus an underlying disorder. All right, daycare. So obviously, daycare can be expensive and it needs to meet the family's personal, cultural, and financial preferences and needs. So that's important to remember, but always educate them to make sure the daycare they're using is state approved. Um, so there's not one particular daycare that you should educate them to take their kid to because you've heard great things. Um, you just need to make sure they know it's state approved. All right, injury prevention. Um, Best prevention is knowledge of age-appropriate risks and guidelines. Parents need to understand their child's activities in order to prevent injuries and take precautions. And like I've said before, toddlers are curious and mobile. So if there's a swimming pool, making sure there's barriers in place so that the child can't get into the pool unsupervised. If there's stairs, making sure precautions are in place there. So toddlers need closer supervision so that they can maintain their safety. They have a shorter attention span. They're gonna, change course, you know, frequently. And so make sure there's close supervision. Let's see. So make sure you educate them on child-proofing their home. This is especially true for toddlers. Of course, the federal government and other organizations do regulate these things. So, all sleepwear for toddlers and infants, non-flammable, child-proof caps on medicine bottles. Believe it or not, long time ago, that was not a thing. Maximum temperatures for water heaters, so we can't get the bath water too hot. Smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, slat space and infant cribs so that they make sure the slats aren't too wide that they can slip out. And then, of course, car seats, which are very much regulated. Toys and play. So inspect toys. Make sure it's suitable for their age, skills, and ability. So play is the work of toddlers. Um, Through play, they learn to manipulate and understand their environment, socialize, and explore their world. So this is where social development takes place and is very important. They also begin egocentric thinking as well. Um, you'll see them take part in parallel play, which will eventually lead to cooperative play in the next developmental stage. So, play is very important for toddlers. All right, that's it for the toddler phase.